Praeturia, Blood and Tide. Chapter 1. The storm approaches. The sun had just risen over the horizon, and the sea stretched out like a gray shroud. The northern winds blew fiercely, but to Thorold they felt like an old companion. Standing at the helm of his longship, with his steel helmet on his head and his silver axe in hand, he was ready for battle. Behind him, his cloak flapped in the wind, heralding the coming storm. His ship, called Raven, was filled with 20 Viking warriors, all armed with shields. Each one was ready for death, sworn to the blood of their brothers. Thorold remembered the words of his father, Bjorn. To be a Viking means to return with victory or to go to Valhalla. There is no middle ground. As these words echoed in his mind, his muscles tensed, and he stood firm at the prow of the ship. Under his command, they were sailing to conquer a village on the eastern coast of Norway. A once peaceful village had now become the target of the Vikings' hunger for plunder. Chapter 2. Shores Stained with Blood. By the time the village saw the Viking ships on the horizon, it was too late. Thorold and his men attacked at the first light of dawn. Armored Vikings stormed through the streets, their swords and axes cutting through everything in their path. The warriors savagely struck down their enemies, while Thorold's eyes were fixed on the village church. The golden cross glimmered in the sunlight, catching his attention. Thorold walked up to the doors of the church and pushed them open. Inside, a group of villagers knelt in prayer. Feeling their terrified gazes upon him, he slowly advanced. "Your gods do not protect you," he said in a harsh voice, raising his axe. But just then, he heard a scream behind him. When he turned around, he saw a young priest trying to defend the villagers. The priest held a cross in his hand, standing defiant against the Viking invaders. For a moment, there was silence. Thorold locked eyes with the brave priest, and a flicker of something stirred within him. "You have courage," he said, lowering his axe. "But it won't save you." The priest did not look away. "One day, savages like you will also face judgment," he said in a voice that trembled, yet remained resolute. Thorold took a deep breath, weighing the priest's words in his mind. He paused for a moment, but then the decision was made. Perhaps, but that day is not today. He raised his axe and ended the priest's life. Chapter 3. After the storm. The battle was over. While the Vikings gathered the remaining loot from the village, Thorold returned to the helm of his ship. His mind was still haunted by the moment he met the priest's brave eyes. He questioned why he had killed him. Was it strength? Rage? Perhaps both. In his mind, his father's words echoed again. Return with victory or go to Valhalla. But this time, victory tasted bitter. Perhaps being a warrior wasn't just about winning. He had won another battle, but had lost a piece of his soul. That night, as the Raven sailed across the open seas, the stars above watched over the Vikings' fates. Thorold removed his helmet and let the cold sea breeze cool his face. He was no longer just a warrior, but a man filled with complex emotions. He had won, but he questioned the cost of his victory. As they sailed through the harsh northern seas, Thorold knew that one day he too would fall in battle. But until that day, the wars and victories would continue.